product that you should be able to make with a given amount of reactant. So the theoretical yield is the calculated amount of product that can be produced from a given amount of reactant. This is determined mathematically using stoichiometry calculations. So what that means is like what we did up here. This says calculated and mathematically. So in question 4 that we just finished, I gave a given amount of hydrogen that's reacting, and we're trying to figure out how much NH3 we would be able to produce. We're calculating a theoretical amount that mathematically we should be able to produce. So if you are using stoichiometry to calculate it, you are calculating the theoretical yield of something. The actual yield is the amount of product that you actually produced when you carry out a chemical reaction in lab. And then the percent yield is just the ratio of these two things. So it's the ratio of the actual yield to the theoretical yield expressed as a percent. So when we write this, it's going to be actual over theoretical times 100. And then your unit, so you're just going to get an answer, your unit will be just percent. So this is your formula for calculating percent yield. So once you get that, go ahead and flip it. So question 1, example 1, says in lab you burned 3.2 grams of magnesium and produced 4.8 grams of magnesium oxide according to the given reaction. Your calculations show that you should have been able to make 5.3 grams of magnesium oxide. What is your percent yield? So in this, if we're reading in lab, would that give me actual information or theoretical information? Actual. So in lab, we burned 3.2 grams of magnesium and produced 4.8 grams of magnesium oxide. Now, something I kind of glossed over, I'm going to flip back real quick, is that this is talking about percent yield. That means that we're dealing with only products. So yield means that it's something that is produced. Because if you think about it, in lab, you know the actual amount of a reactant that you started with. And that's never, like, you're not going to calculate something different that you started with. You either started with it or you didn't. So yield, that's talking about something that you produced, aka only products. So if you get information on the reactant, that would be your given information. That's what we would use for our stoichiometry. So in this case, I burned 3.2 grams of magnesium. That's a reactant. That would be my given information when I'm using the stoichiometry process. What I actually produce is 4.8 grams of magnesium oxide. This is my actual yield. So in this example, I already did the stoichiometry for you, and so that the calculations, the stoichiometry, showed that you should have been able to produce 5.3 grams of magnesium oxide. We would call this our theoretical yield. So to calculate percent yield, I take my actual over my theoretical, and then I multiply that by 100, and that gives me my percent. So in this case, I would take my 4.8 divided by 5.3, and that gives me that decimal. If you can look at that and just tell me the percentage, you don't have to multiply by 100, but a lot of you guys struggle with converting it to a percent, so just multiply by 100, and that's 90.566, so I would round that to 90.57%.